These are new materials that you would then host a workshop here and package as a conceptual exercise to make available either as a workshop or as a kind of product kit to other people.
Oh, great.
I think would be worth thinking about and talking to Jim about. You know, so again, using it not just as a how you're going to produce images, but how you might produce a little viable economic work income generator.
Like a package, kind of, you know, maybe for workshops.
And similarly with, you know, you could then use any of the businesses here. And Kramer Pigment Store is the only pigment store in the country. And it's an incredible thing.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of Apple stores. One pigment store.
So they have like raw materials like this. This I got actually in London. You know that place that's down by the British Museum? It's been around since like the 19th century, so, and they have all these raw materials just like.
Well, we were talking about yesterday, painting the sidewalk in different colours, maybe taking the road and kind of the pigment that you would use would be from Kramer and titanium dioxide, which is a photocatalyst, improves air quality. Might be a very good thing to start thinking about. We take LaGuardia Place as a paint surface, as an image surface. But all of the impervious surfaces become image surface. We're inviting people to draw onto. Maybe that's.
Yeah. If you're interested in natural materials, kind of sorting out which are natural, which are synthetic, that kind of thing might be interesting. But yeah, so I started, you know, talking just about like the earth, you know, the earth colors and showing that, and then the kind of the, you know, the brighter colors that come from, you know, natural materials that we discovered, you know, like the crushing out beetles. You know. And people have been making materials, drawing, painting, or otherwise about things that they find, right? So this is like one of the more odder ones. This is called mummy brown. So this is actual pictures of mummy bits that were used to create a color called mummy brown.
Wow.
And they found through science that it wasn't the mummy that was creating color, but it was actually asphaltum that was used in the graphing process. So science and art come together, and then they start investigating the materials. And say, what is it that makes that color? So it wasn't. So this is actual animal.
Really?
They used to, yeah, they used that to make that color.
Painting earth and corpses onto the ground. I mean, so delightful.
Or maybe if you wanted something a little more colorful, isn't that a beautiful color? Indian yellow, really nice rich color. And this is actually chalk and urine. So it's cow urine that they were fed mango leaves, really rich in making this color. And then the urine would be collected and calcified and mixed with that. And this color was up until, you know, the 1940s when the British Indians, color was available and used as a color.
Well, do you use it anymore?
They're not the natural Indian yellow, but they have a replicated color, a substitute color made from iron oxide, which is just as, again, through science, being able to find that color that matches it. So if I
like the urine process. Maybe we should do a human urine collection.
There you go.
There's your healthy enough to produce a good pigment.
Who has that?
Natalie?
Yeah.
Last year,
What a great idea.
we brought in like this really rare pigment.
Natalie,
that was,
can I
like,
use this stick?
Oh,
and
wow.
it was
Or do you need it?
in, like, you can go to museums and some of the old paintings that are really good.
Oh, I bet that's from the shellfish, yeah.
No, it's actually from snails.
Oh, from
Like
snails,
certain
yeah.
type of snails have like when like the slimes they produce is also purple, but when you like kind of like
Little juice
This
inside.
purple
Yeah, like-
snails?
Like a royal purple. Like
yeah,
a
it
royal
becomes like this. It was like a very, very expensive pigment that was used like only for like small, like he got like this much of his thing and he said that was like a couple $100
Natalie,
right
Yeah, just a
I'm
drop-
doing time lapse
a drop
with
of
that
it.
one.
Drop it,
Yeah.
put it under the microscope.
I'm doing time
Well,
lapse
it's
with
another
this
color that was
one.
very expensive.
Yeah.
And big.
Obviously, it was made from lapis lazuli, and this in the Renaissance period was used. Comes from Afghanistan and Pakistan. It came to Northern Europe.
What is it from?
It's from lapis lazuli, the stone, and they would crush it up, right, and make this pigment from it. Not as expensive as the snail pigment, but it was more expensive than gold. So it would be measured out for Renaissance paintings. You recognize the paintings that were commissioned by the church that have the Madonna, right? Her robes were made from lapis from this. It was called ultramarine blue. So today, we call it French ultramarine blue because a Frenchman by the name of Guimet, Jean-Baptiste Guimet, invented a way of replicating this color and making an ultramarine color, which we call French ultramarine in his honor, made from aluminum. But this was also very expensive, more expensive than gold. The new substitute color is made from heating alumina and creating a color. But you'll recognize this.
This one was also using like Egyptian art, right?
Oh yes, yes.
On the walls of pyramids and so on to
Yes.
represent the pharaohs. Art.
Egyptian paintings. And
Yeah,
art.
yeah.
Very expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
And the name actually, because it came from Afghanistan, Pakistan, when it got to Turkey, was sailed across the sea. So ultramarino is the other side of the sea, so blue from the other side of the sea. And so we carry on that deep blue. And so that said, I also passed around the charcoal. The vine charcoal is made from charring or from heating and cooking charcoal to get it in that black color. And then the compressed charcoal I passed around, the more solid one is actually charcoal that's been compressed with a binder and is really solid. So the other charcoal you're probably familiar with drawing with is, so I can show you, we'll pass around, you can try the drawing. The other one that you're probably maybe familiar with drawing, this has a certain pull to it, right? It has pure charcoal, compressed charcoal. Is a Conte. Has anyone tried Contes before? Yeah, so Conte is a little bit different. It has some chalk in it. And during the Napoleonic Wars between Britain and France, there was an embargo on the best charcoal and graphite came from England. And so there was an embargo and there was no way to get any of these materials. So Mr. Conte invented a way of using the lesser kind of graphites and other materials and adding chalk to it to make a really rich you'll see it's much smoother. It has that, if you press too hard, it has a much smoother kind of line to it because it has that chalk in it, right? And so that's Conte. It's
got some oil in it as well? No.
I don't believe it has oil in it, no. I think it has some chalk and some graphite, and then it comes in different colors as well. So has anyone tried the Conte before?
Indeed.
It's great. It's great for drawing with, and it comes in different figure drawing, different colors. So even for your illustrations, like I see you're doing a tree over there, or some of the natural ones. And then if you want to do some highlights, we have it. They have it in white. They have it in many different colors.
What I'm thinking is that this is pre-hydrocarbon. It's pre-petrochemical. These are all pre-petrochemical materials.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Petrochemical, I mean, every one of our synthetic colors have some sort of petrochemical oil industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, eggshell oil.
And then the paper I'm using is that's acid-free, I think, drawing paper, right? It's very good drawing paper, right? I see a lot of you using just regular sketchbooks or drawing books or different things. And so a lot of those will, they'll, like this particular type of paper might kind of deteriorate over time, right? Unless it's acid-free. So if you're going to be doing, paper, drawings that you want to keep around for a while, you might get something that's called, that's acid-free. This one is, I believe, also pure cotton. This is 75% cotton, the rest of it. So it's a combination because it's a laid paper. And you'll see it has these little lines in it. So the laid paper is nice because it has a little bit of texture. And so with like pastels, if you want to highlight and color, you see these lines starting to appear. So this is what your classic drawing, classic pastel and Conte will use. And it has a little texture that will pull and kind of grab the paper a little bit, right? So it has some texture to it. So you could draw with Conte or pastel. Pastel is basically pure pigment that's bound together with a little gum arabic. So there's a little bit of gum arabic in there. Gum arabic is also the material that binds watercolor together. So the watercolor also has a binder gum arabic.
There's also in food, a lot of food, yeah?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
It's in cola, all the colas as well.
Yeah, it's
So emulsification, basically for holding water and oil together. So
I know it from the watercolor standpoint that it does hold things together, and you can kind of create an emulsification with foods and things.
and it's from the gum arabic tree?
It's from the actual acacia tree, those very large trees. In the opening of The Lion King, the tree is an acacia tree, and so that's the gum. I don't have it with me when I do
Gum
it.
Arabic trees in LaGuardia Place, yeah.
That'd be great. So it's the actual sap that they pull,
Yeah.
and the price fluctuates quite a bit. It comes from the kind of northern Africa area, and the rest of it comes from the Sudan, which is when it's in turmoil, it just isn't accessible or available. So the type of paper you choose too is, will affect the way the materials react, right? So in that paper, the flat paper, the smooth paper, it's pulling in a certain way, and then with the kind of textured paper, it pulls in. And the same is true with watercolors. Anyone currently doing watercolor, or will you be thinking about doing watercolor? Yeah. So watercolor, although I'm going to bring a lot of watercolors with me, it will also, the type of paper you choose makes a difference as well, right? So I have a couple different types of paper. This would be a rough paper. What I'm going to use here is a cold press paper. And the rough paper, you see, is very rough. It has these nooks and crannies on it. So that would illustrate one way, as opposed to maybe a kind of a hot press paper, which I have in the sample book. Hot press paper is very smooth, right? So if we flip through here, and it's very rough, you can see, well, look how thick that is. It's very thick paper, and it has the pounds in it. The poundage of the paper is like an imperial measure. So when you get a large sheet of watercolor, usually the standard size is 22 inches by 30 inches. And if you get a ream of them, 500 of them, they have a certain weight. So that is 140-pound paper. So a ream of that would be 140 pounds, whereas this hot press is 90 pounds. Right? So your illustration, if you're going to be doing, like a permanent illustration, maybe you want like 140 as opposed to 90. But this is, will show you the
Why would
smoothness.
you have a heavier one?
The heavier one, let's say,
Lasts longer, yeah?
it lasts longer, and if you're going to be drawing more vigorously, like this really thick one here, I've seen drawings, for instance, Jim Dines drawings. He does these drawings, he has other materials, and he'll take, instead of using an eraser, he'll take like a grinder or some kind of heavy equipment to dig into the spaces. So if you're using a lot of water or a lot of other media, you might want a little thicker. Whereas the 90 pound.
You got any paper making? Any paper making experience?
Like a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was like crafty.
Are these extra chalks?
That's actually pure pigment with gum arabic that ties it together. Some for the artist grade, for some of the student grade, lesser grade, you might have a little, like a filler, like a little chalk in it. But that's actually pigment, as opposed to chalks will not have that intensity to it. And so the watercolor, here's, for instance, I just have these little tabs in watercolor.
And this is a permanent, it doesn't fade the pigment?
Yep, those permanent, most all of them are permanent pigments.
So you spray them?
But you want to fix them, yeah, because it's just holding on for dear life. It's just the pigment and a little gum arabic. So typically there might be a fixative on there, or you might want to mount it on glass or something.
So if we actually painted on the surface of the rubber,
As soon as you're ready to move
Not
no,
cold.
we're saying if it's fixed, how would it wear?
Mhm.
Because the whole idea of these unwearable surfaces that
Mhm.
stabilize and isolate and will kill our urban environment, could either be exploited or explored by, so in an outdoor UV exposed fixed image on the asphalt, temperature variation, the color would stay.
Yes, the color would stay, and what we have is basically a color chart of different colors. I don't have it for the pastels, but this is watercolor, for instance. And all of these colors are permanent except for the very, very bright one, which is a rose, upper rose. And then the rose matter also fades a little bit over time. But the rest of them are permanent, and they can be measured in permanency. And also, I know when Natalie was speaking earlier about transparency and opacity, they'll tell you which colors are transparent, which ones are opaque. And that would be for watercolor. But as far as like wearing down and so forth, you might choose something other than pastel, right? If you want to fix it, then you might use some other kind of
And then
binder.
what sort of fixatives would you use on
For-
an acrylic?
For pastels, they have like a special fixative. For acrylics, they have different binders that you can use, and then there's these incredible kind of other kind of varnishes, acrylic varnishes, or acrylic kind of sealers that you could get. So that's a little more
Yeah,
technical. It's
yeah.
not really a fine art.
That
but-
don't really this color.
And so those are basically the watercolors, and then here's like a couple different colors. These are watercolors are either soft watercolors or moist watercolors in the two, and these watercolors would be more like watercolors you would find in a pan of watercolor. Right? And so basically, I'm able to re-wet it, and this is something that came around in the also in the 19th century. Werner Herder would have two different waters here, but let me see if I get to nail it here. And watercolors were really hard to kind of pick up earlier, before the 1830s, and what happened is there was an invention of adding glycerin to the watercolor, which makes it re-wettable, and it allows you to kind of pick it up. Right? It was actually Winsor Newton in the 1830s that did that.
As we're running out of time,
Yes, okay.
does
Let me
anybody
get to the
here,
next
no,
one.
I want to, does anybody here want Jim to come back for more?
Ah,
I think so. So we can explore that. But I think
Okay.
actually taking, particularly if you can maybe write me afterwards if you really want to work on your watercolor, you can do several hours on it
Something
and
more in depth.
produce something.
Yeah.
I think
Also,
would
I
be
have
really
a
good.
couple of materials I feel like I don't even know the best way to use them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like,
And in the meantime, I'll leave some materials you can experiment with. This is a new invention. This is watercolor and a marker. He likes that.
Yeah.
So, so the nice thing about that is it has two kind of sides to it. One is the kind of brush, right, thick and thin, and then the other is kind of a drawing, right? So if you're not particularly adept or have experience using a brush or watercolor itself, this is a great way to apply the watercolor. And unlike other markers, it is watercolor, so you can really lift it right away and make a watercolor. So if you went outside and did some sketches, you came back and and you wanted to make it more into a watercolor, you could do that, right? And then you can mix it with the other colors. So if I wanted a little more green, I could add some actual watercolor to it. And it comes in a whole range of colors, and then you can mix the colors together, or you can embellish, so if you want an edge and then you want to kind of keep that edge and make the other side soft, you could easily do that as well. So just by applying, the brush. So we could go out and draw the trees pretty quickly because, we're not having to go out with all our palettes and our papers and so forth. So that's a little bit, actually it's less than a year old. And the other thing that you'll see,
What's the name of the pen?
this paint, this is the, it's a Winsor Newton watercolor marker. And they've also come out with, just like I was showing you, these tabs or pads of watercolor. They have this has a little more wax to it, and you can actually draw with that, right? So this is watercolor that you can draw with, or you can dip it in. You can dip it in the water and do some. You can pick some areas up, right? So, and these also come in papers. Or if you want to lay down the water first, there are other ways of doing that too. So then you can just apply it, and then I could bring in other watercolors or the markers or whatever to create that. So maybe.
We also get them thinking about workspaces. What if you were to design a product display of these watercolor pens and a kind of drawing space, either outside these glass windows or outside the news agency? Or what would it, if you could start to conceive what it would be like to have your workspace also be a drawing space with the materials, that I'm sure we could negotiate some kind of sponsorship from the art materials company to actually set up and have there available for people to come, and also visible. We were talking about the on-street. We're not doing it in the cave, right? Here, we can keep this for the digital video editing and cave activities. And for those of us who want to come out of the cave, to have an on-street display.
It'd be fun, right? To
Also-
introduce other people to
Yeah, and have
materials.
the news agency. I think it's news agency is the English word, right?
Yeah, but
Stationary store.
I went to a shop that sells a news agency what sells newspaper and food and a drink for the fitness stationery. But they primarily sell
And then also, I think you're familiar with the pigment markers, was it? You mentioned it, yeah. So that's sad that we looked at pigments, right? The way, just a few sources of where pigments come, either earth pigments or from natural materials or insects or different things. And now, and then in paint, it's bound together in the acrylics or the oils or the watercolor. Now again, because of technology, they're able to take actual pigments as opposed to dyes, right? So the pigments are the thing that make it permanent. We're talking about road drawings and paintings and why it's permanent. It's the actual colors that are permanent. So now we have a micro
One of the
technology.
things they don't fade in UV light.
Yes, in UV light. So the light is
Over
constantly.
hundreds of years.
Yeah, there's a measure actually. They have a spectrometer and some kind of aging device where they can measure it over time. So there are different levels of it. They rate them. But I would say the most permanent would be hundreds of years. We've seen paintings that are around for hundreds of years.
Sure, certainly.
Yeah.
But I wonder why there's in this question why we haven't in the kind of outdoor. There's the outdoor mural, but why haven't we seen buildings that are much more pigment coloured, much more colourful in a kind of extraordinary way? I mean, we see in the Greek islands and the kind of the ideal of the titanium dioxide there. Why aren't there, patch,
Yes.
beautifully coloured colors? I always thought it was something about things fading, but
I think it may be more of a cultural thing, right?
Yeah,
if you
it's
go down
like
to
the
like
aesthetic of the city.
cities, right? If you go down to the southwest, they do kind of color some of the clays and the
and the painted
buildings.
ladies in San Francisco, so is that that.
Yeah, I think, and there are ways of like enameling bricks or changing colors. Or
The vividness of these colours is amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine having that on every brick being?
It'd be dazzling, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be dazzling.
The colors are amazing.
That was like my idea for the flower thing.
Yes, I know. It's actually this is building on your sense of really bringing in, amplifying the colour of flowers. Because flowers are little splotches of colour, but to really, yeah, that would be
Like use a
fantastic.
space as like a
Mm-hmm.
wall
Oh.
color, but like flowers.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
one of the things that they're referring to is this, I think you know the pharmacy project with the bags.
Oh, yeah.
Bags of flowers.
But yes.
So that
edible
using,
flowers.
yeah, and using the tie bed as a drawing surface, as an outdoor drawing surface is something that we've been talking about a lot, and how and why to use the permanent colours on that outdoors. But I'm also, it's an interesting contrast because it's the kind of permanence of pigment and colour. And then one of the projects that I just got from Gerodon is the largest flavours and scent company in the world. And so they've just agreed to produce a pharmacy Manhattan perfume, which has the scent of what Manhattan would smell like if we integrated vegetation into around the Washington Square area. So maybe we do an edition of an NYU version of our LaGuardia Place version, but this is actually about kind of volatility as opposed to the permanent. So the contrast between those two uses of natural materials, I think, is really
That was like
interesting.
there was a edition of the Cooper Hewitt where it was like a scratch and sniff wall where like this lady is really into I forget the artist's name, she's really into like collecting smells and she like collected smells all around New York and like put them on, they installed it in like the wall.
The pleasant and
It's just like a
pleasant.
white wall. Yeah.
Oh.
And you like scratch some part and you like sniff it. It can be like
I've seen
garbage
something.
bags or like the city and the smell after it rains,
Darren Video did a thing in an exhibition design in the Museum of Art Design, which was a much more elaborate than the kind of surface material, which is, I think, something delightful about this is all about surfaces. They actually had vessels that you would then open and produce stuff, but this idea of these absolutely, the scratch and stuff, kind of, what you're looking into is really thin, right? You're not looking through, you're looking onto the surface that is what these materials are about, as opposed to the screen base, which is shooting light at
And when you were showing your drawings and your concepts and Professor Malley was speaking about doing proposals and stuff, I thought of these pigment markers because they're, this is a pigment technology. So unlike other markers that are alcohol-based, for instance, these actually have micropigments in it. So the same kind of colors you would have in your paints, but in a marker. So that means when you use markers like this, it also has a blendability to it. Because it's not alcohol, there's a little alcohol in it, but it's mostly like a vehicle that allows you to mix the colors together. So here I can make it green pretty easily. Whereas a lot of colors you would need to then be very specific about layering. And then they have blenders such as this is a blender, they have a transparent blender. So I can easily kind of blend my colors together, and make a range for it. And it's reworkable as well. Or,
We need these, how much?
I have some.
They're really cool.
Yeah, and
My
where did
friend-
you see them? Yeah,
No,
'cause they're very new.
It
They're
was
about 6
one of
months
my
old.
art classes last year. I was doing a project and I saw some of my Bryce's because she was using it for hers. And they were awesome.
Oh, great. And then it
So
comes.
she said that she spent a lot of money on them.
Yes, are really expensive.
Yeah, they're actually, I think there are $6 to something a piece, right? But I have some samples for, I think they're about six.
$6 a piece?
I think they're about
Is
$6.
the blender
Well, how much is
washable?
your laptop, for God's sake?
These actually washable. What do you mean washable?
When you know the point of the pen is like now green, if I want
Oh
to.
yeah. So because I blended it, what I do is I have a little worksheet and I just wipe it off.
Okay.
Or if you want, you can pull it out. Okay, does that? Yeah. So it's not. Yeah. Good,
Okay.
good question. Yeah.
So
So.
can we get negotiate sets of these? Or maybe we can,
I have some. Actually, I brought samples for everybody, so everyone gets the red and not red, colorblind, yellow and blue, and then the mixer. And then I also have a watercolor marker for you, and a watercolor stick to start with, and then Conte à Paris. I have some Conte carrés, which are the square drawing, and then the pastels as well. So you can you start with those, and I'll see if I'm getting some more. For you.
Thank you.
I have one for everyone. Yeah, you're very welcome. So you can do your And so I look forward to seeing what you come up with. And then if you wouldn't mind, I'll just note your name and email if you wouldn't mind just topping on there, and I'll let them know I was fine. And so if you can. And it might be fun if.
Crazy too.
Yes, there's one for each of you. I'm going to get those out. I'm sorry. Yes, you each have one. Yeah.
Do they send you their new products, or like do you just like you obviously go to the store and you find them, or
You can
do
also
they
develop the color on this if it fits marker.
Do they not
I
here?
mean, it says, yeah.
Yeah, so your question is
like,
if I.
is it basically when
What?
and then release new products, you get them straight away because they know they use them, or just that you're locating them in the pigment shop?
No, that's great. I'm not actually in the pigment shop, but I do workshops with Winsor Newton, and I've been doing
I see
them
that.
for watercolors,
Yeah.
oils, and all that. And so, yeah, I get sometimes I get materials before they come out to try them and work with them,
Right.
or once a year we meet and then we think about new products and things. I don't, it's not like, oh, that's a great idea, Jim. We'll credit you for it, but we kind of get together and talk about how materials are used. A lot of it has to do with either health and safety, or new colors, or how does that work? You think, So it's really art and science, and the chemists they use there are pretty incredible. I think they're only on their eighth or ninth chemist since the 1830s. So they're like, and they have the old books. I think you can see them. They've been scanned. They're online at the Tate, and you can see they actually call them recipes of how you make the color and how you mix them. And so there's a lot of depth and a lot of interesting history
So
there.
for instance, why don't you have, if we set you up a studio
Mm-hmm.
with the glass wall,
Mm-hmm.
outside of here, would Vincent pay you to kind of perform your work?
Yeah, well, I do workshops and things, so.
Yeah, but it's different from actually having a studio, your own studio workspace kind of
That would be a good
as
idea.
yeah.
If you could help me pitch it, sure.
Yeah, I think
Why
I
not?
will. I think I will.
Why not? That's a great idea. And the other exciting thing is I was working with yet another French company. Napoleon Wars have been long over. The British and the English. So the Arche papers are the ones I've been using are from Arche, France, which is the quality of the watercolor papers. And this company's been around since how old do you think it is? I think it's on here. 1492. They asked Americans to remember. Yeah. And they moved to Arche, France in 1492 because the spring there it's a pH balanced spring, and it's like an acid-free pH, very clean water. so all their papers are made with this, pure cotton, and they have all these new
So
inventions.
it's actually an industrial.
Yeah, they started handmade. They still, started hand making watercolor papers, and through the years now it's become an industrial. So now they're still mold-made papers, but they have it all throughout the industry using the water from that area, which is very.
Do you know
clean
this
water.
place, Ashes?
It's in the Alsace, it's in the north. It's a small town, yeah, but you know
Yeah.
this paper, right? You've heard of
Yeah,
Ashes,
this paper I know, but I
Yeah,
didn't even
but
because
this
it's
is-
also another. It's a noun in French
Yeah.
also, so I didn't know it was also the name of.
Yeah, it's a
the
very small village in the
Yeah.
just south of Lorraine, I think, or Alsace.
Okay.
somewhere there, yeah,
Okay.
that way.
Okay.
Have you been there?
I have not been to Arsh now,
Do
but
you
I've
think
seen
we
pictures
could,
of it.
we could
yeah.
find someone to go and do a photo essay for us?
We should go as a group, yeah.
We could all fly over there, but it's probably easier to.
I can't afford $6 markers, but.
Going to France? Yeah, perhaps. So, so I'm really excited for you. I love the drawings and the concepts that you have, and just, the whole idea of,
Do you have, sorry, pencils to write on glass maybe? if
I think these
Don't
would
have-
work.
This
Well,
one,
we
you
should,
think?
we should try these. So maybe we go now and try them on the glass.
Yeah, I think what they have is they have a little.
They will kick this out.
They work really well on that paper because the paper.
It's a student book. You're in charge here.
I'll leave you some of that paper because it works really well on that paper,
Yeah.
and the watercolor markers work really well on with watercolor.
So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's about as much about the texture of the paper as it is about the pigment and
Pigments,
and
yeah.
the actions of.
Especially with the lighter materials as
Yeah.
opposed to like the heavier.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
I think
So do if you want.
watercolor, the effect will it won't work on glass because the surface is like
Non-porous, yeah, it needs
Yeah.
something to hold on to, but there are like acrylics, hardly anything
Acrylics
sticks to
would
glass,
work.
but there's a certain type of acrylic that will stick to glass.
Do you have acrylic pen too? Or?
I don't, but acrylic paint, yes, but I don't.
It exists, I mean.
Yes, it is,
Okay.
yes.
And it's
Windsor makes some really incredible acrylics, yeah.
So maybe we do a one session on that.
Because I know it could work on glass for sure.
Yeah, to optimize glass. But there's also, the semi-transparent papers that we could
Mhm.
play with.
Yeah, like we're using this marker paper, but there's also like the semi-transparent papers, like the Yupo papers and some of the acrylic papers, and, lots of different things. So yeah, so the idea is to try the different
Paper
materials.
for so long.
Wait till you see it. It's actually funny. It looks like time lapse. So you
It's
can-
yeah, you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to put your?
Well, it's-
That uses a lot of
And actually, this is your next assignment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before he goes, to start exploring how you actually work now, and the amount of stasis in your work, and the lack of kind of complex gestures that you would have to make to actually work like this. I'd like you to do a time lapse. There's a time lapse photo, function on every standard. There's a lot of. So time lapse yourself working before next week, so we can all have.
I
a look
don't
at
have
this.
enough memory on my phone, I think. But that's definitely an interesting.
Exactly. It's so interesting to see
Yeah.
how long you sit and how still you sit and how little you move.
Thank you so
You
much.
don't like to move until
That's
you
a
see
great
yourself.
present. Oh my
So we
god.
could,
I'm so happy.
Okay.
Can I have a green
I
one?
will choose.
Green, I think there's one color, but I might have some in my. Yes, I have a green one here, and I have some.
Oh.
I brought some other colors, so I'll see if I can leave a few other colors so you guys can share them.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, they're free. I have nothing to do. Sorry. But I have some extra ones. I'll leave some with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I'll pull a few other ones out for you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, this is
Great.
fun, you know?
What would be interesting for me is if you open the way you're working with your sketchbooks now, I'll just it'd be great to kind of see how you're working now and then how you do with proposals and stuff. Just,
yes, actually, this is actually way to
yeah,
go.
just like a general shot. I'm not gonna
We're developing a
just,
sketch.
but I saw some people working. Oh, right, that's interesting.
Yeah, and in fact, I was going to ask whether or not I'll send you because it's a mix of a sketchbook /lab book that we are trying to do. We're both exposing and demanding a kind of observation of natural systems. So these are all urban naturalists that you have here. So, but natural systems and an expanded view of what is an urban natural system, what is nature. So the book that we're developing, which I'd love to talk to you about,
yeah, I'd love to see it. Yeah.
we would self-assemble at the paper shop, the coffee shop across the road, in a production line with these some systematized observation system that will build a phenological clock, and then sketches, and also, I mean, to how the book actually changes the workspace. Maybe you don't actually want a desk in your workspace. Maybe you want an easel. Maybe you want to hang the book on a moving surface that can swing around, and it hangs from a rope. So maybe it's not a static desk, because who needs a static desk? You've got plenty of them. You don't need to make another one. So, so I think that's another opportunity for collaboration. But I think this is what's really, I think, really important about Jim's practice and creative production. We've talked a lot about in environmentalism. People are not necessarily artists. In fact, usually not. They're usually policy regulators. They're usually doing leaves accounting to count light bulbs. The whole representational strategies of the environmental movement have been very quantified and oriented towards regulatory control. Whereas what we're trying to articulate here is an imaginative, aspirational redesign of our urban environment and our relationship to natural systems. So it's really creative practices of which we have a much longer history than the industrial workspaces that are embodied into our screens. So Jim's work, playing with traditional and contemporary media as an artist, with a relationship with this materials company to make it work and to sell work and to, that it's a self-invented career, right? That's driven by your pleasure of working with materials.
Understanding materials a little better, yeah.
And I think it's a great example of a non-Google worker kind of imagination of what work can be if it's actually for and about your own pleasure and production, as opposed to doing it for the money. So I think Jim's a great example of that, and we will keep in touch with him and anyone who wants to hang around some more about him.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, yeah, sure. Absolutely. So thank you very much. I enjoyed meeting
you.
I look forward to seeing what you come up with. It'd be great to see your realization of your ideas as the formal proposal or whatever. So it's exciting. Great. Thank you very much, Natalie.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, and I'll see if I have some extra.
People have other colors and things they can work with. Oh yes, I have a few of those. Yeah, I do have a few of them, so I will. Yeah. So
Yeah, I do have some. Here, you can have a green one.
You can have the green one too.
So, and then I'll leave some more marks. Anyone else want a green one as well? Okay. Let's see, I have a red one. Do you already have a red one?
yeah.
I have a yellow one. Yes. Oh, I'm here for you.
Yeah, there's a purple one. Yeah. Have that one. These are other markers. This one is open.
I have the other ones. I have pigment markers. I have a brown pigment marker, a violet one. Charcoal? Yeah, I could give you some charcoal. This is a pigment marker. Yes. So, yes. Do you want to hold a charcoal pencil? There you go. We do some drawings. What would you like? Oh, you got an extra green one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it, okay. And I'll leave some. I'll leave some materials and also a couple of the papers, like the drawing papers you tried. And the markers actually work on this marker paper. So I'll leave the marker paper with Natalie. You know what, I'll give you all a few sheets so you can try that out.
Yeah,
Right?
why not?
Do you have something to put in there? Why not?
Let's take as many pictures as we can. You have to use them all. Yes, these are all versions of your future workspace, right?
Okay.
Use them all to.
Monsieur. The little tab, yeah, it's like just a little sample tab. Yeah, a little sample
So
tab.
I
Anyone else
just
need some
think
more
in
here?
addition of the sketchbook, I think we put a lot on there. So,
Oh, so people can do it in instance.
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe I'll see about,
with every other page.
yeah, what, on the front cover, what a lovely array of blobs.
And these are different markers. I don't know. These are more dye-based. These are more kind of traditional kind of markers. Try that if you compare them.
These are alcohol things, right?
Yeah, these are alcohol-based. What else do you?
I love this one.
Okay, all right.
I know this one.
So just so you can compare the difference, the technology, right? So, ooh, nice rich brown one. Ooh la la. With a rubber band. Oh, and there's a green one too. I guess yours was
Thanks so much.
So yeah.
Color
Yeah, so those are actually, if you're drawing, if you want to, demonstrate, do some drawing outside, this isn't one of their companies, but I just wanted to show you some some other aspects of drawing. This is graphite, yeah, so they're tinted graphites, and if you can imagine like a large piece of paper, right? So you can do some color kind of,